Once again, Craig Fairbrass is back with Rise of the Footsoldier, Vengeance. He is playing Pat Tate again. We love this man as Pat Tate. And let's be honest, Fairbrass's career over the last couple of years has just gone from strength to strength to strength to strength, getting critical acclaim. So it's always good when the man comes back to bring us some more Pat Tate action. I am back. My name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews and exclusive interviews. I like to talk about everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, and while these movies do tend to be the lower end of the scale, it does feel like Nick Nevern has been given a little bit of money, letting us know that the people behind the scenes do trust this franchise. It's a quintessential British franchise at this point. It's got gangsters, women, Craig Fairbrass. It's got everything you need for a British quintessential gangster flick. But before we get into the review proper, please do all those amazing things. You have been doing it in your droves and it's awesome to see. Please do hit that like, hit that subscribe and ding that notification bell. It will let you know whenever I drop a review, an interview, anything like that. When they made that first movie back in 2007, I'm pretty sure they weren't thinking, 3 or 4 sequels, prequels, all these different things down the line. It was just one of these stories that, at the time, Britain was just encapsulated by the Range Rover murders, the Essex boys. It was a big thing at the time. It's still kind of talked about a lot nowadays, although this franchise has kind of veered away from it a little bit. We know that's always going to be in the background, but it's veered from there. So this was the next installment of Pat Tate's story, so let's just do it.
Tonight.
For the record, can you confirm the identity of the body before you?
Yeah, I can confirm. Who did this to him?
We don't know. Where were you Monday morning at 10 o'clock, Mr. Tate?
I don't know if there's much point telling you how I'm going to do things, because I always do that in every single video, and I feel like we could maybe start dropping that soon. But yeah, I will talk about the plot, I'll then talk about the cast, characters, crew, all that good stuff. We will then talk about what I did and didn't like about the film, and then I'll move on to my Nerdly Out Loud rating, which is my rating, the only rating you will ever need. So when we talk about chronological and timeline-wise, this movie is in between Marbella and also in between Origins. So this is kind of like the story to get you from Marbella to Origins, although I say that, I do feel like there's going to be another one in between. So after the events of Marbella, Pat Tate has done a little bit of bird. He comes out of the old prison and he hooks up with his good old pal, Kenny. Kenny, who's kind of been a bit of a mainstay in not just this franchise, but also kind of like any British movie out there. Josh Myers, you've been in just about everything ever. So he hooks up with Kenny and they go out and they do a little bit of a job. The job goes well. There's not as much money in the lockbox that they thought there was, so they kind of fall out a little bit and sort of go their separate ways. Kenny kind of goes to find out what actually happened with the job, and then he's murdered quite unceremoniously, and that's where the movie kicks in proper. That's where the vengeance comes in, because remember, Kenny's one of Pat Tate's pals, and if there's one thing we know about Pat Tate is he always looks after his pals. So now the movie becomes a case of he's going to go into the London Underground, the Soho, the dark seediness of London in the 90s, and he's gonna basically seek revenge for his best mate. He's going to get vengeance for him, and we all know how Pat Tate does this. And of course he gets himself into some shenanigans, and while he's out on his vengeance trail, he kind of hooks up with a few people from his past, a few people that we know are going to be in his future, which is cool. Some twists and turns along the way, and we're going to get ourselves to what I feel is going to be the next movie. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but there's definitely another one coming, and boy howdy, was it good to see Craig Fairbrass back in the Pat Tate role. He's just brilliant in them. Like, this is definitely almost peak Craig Fairbrass for me. We got the film Avengement, the Jesse Johnson movie that I absolutely adored. You know, he had a bit part in that. Again, not a massive part, but he had a good part. And then we moved into the likes of Muscle, which I know wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but if you're willing to see what that movie's actually trying to do and actually trying to say, you will get that movie. You'll enjoy that movie. And of course, we had the likes of Villain, the Phil Barantini movie that I absolutely adored. And of course, A Violent Man, another movie that I just adored. So, right. So let's just talk about who we have in this movie, because I'm starting to waffle on about things that make no sense. Kicking off with Craig Fairbrass. He is on form once again as Pat Tate. This is one of those characters that he just seems to be able to fall into and just make this role his own. Again, we're changing it up a little bit. If there's one thing Nick Nevern has been really, really instrumental on since coming back to the franchise, is that he likes each movie to have its own little flavour, its own little taste. Of course, it's going to have that 90s vibe, it's going to have that retro-y type style that Nevern's fantastic at doing, but himself and writer Andrew Loveday and Jason Maza have written on this as well. These guys are really trying to sort of revolutionise the franchise, and with this being more of a revenge sort of tale, with it being that, we can do something different. It means that Fairbrass can apply all the nuance that he's been really, really honing in on as an actor, and gives us a slightly different Pat Tate, to the point where, yeah, he's doing some pretty bad shit, but you know what? I'm kind of rooting for him, and I kind of want him to win. Of course, no Footsoldier movie would be complete without a slew of just awesome British talent that you know and love from everything ever. Those kind of actors that you said, oh, he was in that, I loved him in that, he's great in that. There's a lot of these guys in there, starting with Phil Davis as this sort of overarching gangster who's up to some shit. Like, you think he's kind of trying to help Pat, and Pat's trying to help him, but there's definitely no trust there, and there's not a lot of love between these guys. Phil Davis always smashes it out of the park. He's a legend of an actor. It doesn't matter how big the role is, how small the role is, Phil Davis will give you 100% of Phil Davis on that day. And he plays this role brilliantly. Emily Wyatt returns from Marbella as Charlotte, and it's great to see her again. Emily Wyatt's another actress I'm always a big fan to see. She plays a great role here, not a great deal to do, but enough to keep you invested in who she is and her story. Jamie Forman's kicking about, you know, if you've seen Layer Cake, any movies like that, Jamie Forman is just an outstanding character actor. I genuinely get a kick out of seeing Jamie Forman in movies. We do get one actor who I was so happy to see. It's Jeff Bell as Johnny Knight. He only has one, maybe two scenes, but fuck, he steals it. Like, the scene he is in is so powerful and emotionally driven that it really knocked me for six a little bit. I wasn't really expecting that from this character when he comes in. Yeah, Jeff Bell really went up a couple of notches for me in this movie. I've always been a fan and I've always watched out for him, but in this movie, in the short period of time we had him, he knocked it out of the park. I'm not entirely sure we have to talk too much about Josh Myers. He's been in every movie ever. He keeps turning up. We love the guy. He's awesome. He plays Kenny really well. Meets a sticky end, which is unfortunate, but one of the characters that he does help introduce into this movie is played by an actor called Ben Wilson, who plays Billy the Kid. He's like this boxer. He gets involved in all this. He's trying to seek his dad's approval, but maybe going about it the wrong way. Really like this character. This was a character that, much like Jeff Bell, I wasn't hugely expecting a lot from, but once you kind of get into this character and you get to know this guy, I really want to see him in more stuff. I want to see Ben Wilson a lot more. So yeah, Ben Wilson as Billy the Kid in this movie, genuinely top notch. I'll be watching out. But apart from the cast, a lot of credit, and I mean a lot of credit, has to go to director Nick Nevern, because this movie looks great, feels great, sounds great, edited great, plays great. Of course, you have a script from Andrew Loveday and Jason Maza, who 100% know what this franchise is. They get this franchise. Nick Nevern's been here before, he's come back, and he's really revitalizing this franchise. And I'm really happy with the way it's going. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, this is the godfather of British movies. I'm not going to say that. But bloody hell, it's enjoyable, it's fun. It was a nice, fresh way to go. It's so funny to think that these guys that we know how they met this sticky end, and we know how the Range Rover, the Essex boys, we know how that story ends. I would be completely down at this point if Pat Tate, Craig Rolfe and Tony Tucker somehow survive. We could just, I don't know, like, let's do a Flash. Let's do a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Let's have Tony Tucker, Craig Rolfe, Pat Tate all survive the Range Rover killings, although that's basically what the first movie was about, so we've already done that. But let's just have it split off into its own thing, and let's just see these guys grow up through the years and just get more badass. I'd be down for that. Andrew Loveday, Nick Nevern, Jason Maza. If you make that movie, I'm taking like 50% of the credit. I know you won't because it's like a true life story, but so fuck, let's do it. So what I did and didn't like about the movie, there's not a lot that I didn't like, other than the fact that I feel like the last half of the movie, if you're not a fan of the franchise and if you haven't watched Rise of the Footsoldier over the years, especially the likes of Marbella and probably Origins, you're going to be a little bit lost with some of this story. It does tie in. Yes, it's its own thing for the most part, but when you come towards the tail end of the movie, it kind of connects in ways that you need to know. That is a slight nitpick, but I just love the overall vibe. I love the way we're moving in a slightly different direction here. I love the feeling of these movies. It feels like Nick Nevern has this style and this stamp that he wants to just press onto this franchise. And with that, because Origins did well enough for them to give him the okay to run off and make another movie, go back and do the Pat Tate story. They've given him a bit of money because the film does look excellent and some of the kills are pretty damn brutal. Really what I'm trying to say is what I like is not necessarily the vibe of the movie, but the faith that they've been given to carry on this outrageous franchise that really, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't exist. You know, like, it maybe should have ended after that first movie. I know we got the sequel that Carlton Leach went on to make himself, but is this really a franchise that should still be going today? 2007 it started. Should we still be getting Footsoldier movies? I don't know, but we are, and I bloody love them. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best movie you will ever see, because you might watch it and then be like, not my cup of tea. Because I do realise these British gangster movies are not everyone's cup of tea. But we're moving in a different direction here. So, you know, just roll with it, please. Just roll with it. So with that in mind, I'm not going to drop the old 5 out of 5 on this as much as I want to. What I will say is I thoroughly enjoyed this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a 4. I am going to give it a 4 as much as my heart wants to give it a 5. But as we wrap out the year, as we're coming towards the end of 2024, I can honestly say this is one of my favourite movies of the year. I went into it knowing what it was going to be, and it was absolutely all of those things, and it smashed it. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Make of that what you will. It could quite easily be a 5, but I'm going to give it a 4. I loved it. Craig Fairbrass, you keep smashing these roles. You keep bringing something different, and why I have not sat down and interviewed you yet, I don't know. I guess this is me saying, dude, get your ass on the show. We have to talk about some of these movies you've made recently, because since Muscle, Villain, Avengement, Violent Man, Footsoldier Origins, Footsoldier Vengeance, you are smashing it. And of course Netflix, One Piece. Dude, One Piece. Actually really love that show. So yeah, do all those things, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, ding that notification bell. Please do come back for the next review, next interview, whatever I have planned for you. I don't really know quite yet, because I think you've probably figured out by now, we just roll with the punches around here, and yeah, we love it.